We're starting now Beis Hashem Yisbarach, Maseches Peah, Daf Yud Zayin. Yud Zayin is Perik Beis, and the beginning of Perik Beis. Zog the Mishnah. You see the Mishnah now. Mishnah enumerates all the things, all the things that are considered a Hefsek in regards to Peah, and if you want to give Peah from one field to the other one, it does not work. You have to give for each field separately. Nachal, Bashlulis is a river and a water gathering, Derech HaYochid, a road for individual, Derech HaRabim, a road for many people, Shvil HaYochid, a small path for individual, Shvil HaRabim, a path for many people, HaKavua B'Mesacham B'Mesach only if it's there summer and winter. Habur means on a wild field, that's called bur, vanir, and a field that's plowed, zera acher, or it is a seed, a different type of seed there. Koitzel hashachas mafsik, divrei meir. If a person decides to cut for young grass, that means that before the grain gets finished, there's a certain green fodder that you give for the animal, and a person decides in the middle of his wheat field to take some of it for animal feed, and it's in a state of grass, mafsik, divrei meir. That's considered a hefsek. So let's say he has a big huge field, and in the center he made a path that's cut for the animal feed. Now he divided into two fields, so each field he has to give Peah separately. No, only if he plowed. He cut that center part and made divided into two fields, and then afterwards he plowed that part. That's actually what's called near, right? That's one of the things that's mafsik. You plow. And so we say that since you did the near, that's the mafsik. But the mere fact that you just cut for shachas, that is not enough to make a hefsek. Now the Gemara brings out, where do we know that's mafsik? Shnema satcha. It says in the Torah satcha, pas sadecha. So we know from this that you cannot give from one field to the other. So the Gemara ve'eino mechuver, but it's not menat Torah. Ve'in teima mechuver who, if you say it's menat Torah, afil sada il mafsik. Matanin taman hakal mafsik l'zron and mafsik l'il and agoder. So we say that the din of a sedei iln, if you have trees, the only thing that's mafsik is a fence. If we say that the din of nachal, the shludis, is menat Torah, then even by iln it should be mafsik. By trees, there should also be a din that if there is a road or a nachal, it should be mafsik. Since we see by sedei iln, it's not like that. So we see that the Mishnah here is not hefsek menat Torah, and that's why it doesn't work by sedei iln. So the Gemara asks on that, hageder mechuver, ve'eino mechuver. No, it's also not menat Torah. Even a gather, even a fence is also not mechuver. Why? In teima mechuver afilu sar koitish mafsik. It says in the Mishnah, im hoyasar koitish, if the branches of the tree are bumping in the gather, ena mafsik. And unless in pe'al achas lakoil, ado omer she'ena mechuver. So he's saying another chiddush. Even the fence is also not mafsik menat Torah. Why? Because if it be mafsik menat Torah, then it wouldn't be this halacha that if there is the branches of the tree are bumping into the gather, then it's considered like one, because who cares? There's a fence. So we see from that the fence is also not a hefsek menat Torah. It's not a hefsek menat Torah, and that's why we say that if there is sar koitish, means the branches are bumping into the wall, then it's eine mafsik. Now Yerushalmi goes a step further, even a deeper thing. He says this. It's like a step upon a step upon a step. He says in Tema Mechuver Hu means this point that Sar Koitish is not mafsik is also not Menat Torah. So obviously, if the whole gather is not Menat Torah, so the Sar Koitish is not Menat Torah because the gather is not mafsik. But it's just trying to build up the thing stronger. He says this halacha that if the branches are bumping in on the gather on the fence, then it's considered one, is also not Menat Torah. Why? Because if it's such a strong thing, afle mitzad echad, it should be working even from one side. We see only if it's on both sides, both trees of the fence, on both sides of the fence are both bumping in, then we say it is considered a chibur. It's like one. But if it's only from one side, not. But if we say that this halacha of Sar Koitish is such a strong Svara, it's such a strong din, so why do you need from both sides? So we see that this din of Sar Koitish is also not mechuver, means it's also not Menat Torah. So we have a lot of levels. First we say that gather is not Menat Torah, and first we say Nachal is not Menat Torah, then we say gather is not Menat Torah, and then we say Sar Koitish is not Menat Torah. All these things, there's some kind of loophole, so he must be as not 100% Menat Torah. Rabbi Yasser, this is Rabbi Yossi means Rabbi Yasser. You know, it's not. It's always important to differentiate between the Taina and making it into an Aleph. Yasser b'shem Rabbi Yossi b'Chanina. Hefish pei mesod v'chaverta loy kitcha. If a person separates peah from one field to the other one, it does not work. It does not work if it's from one field to the next. Now, here we go. We say Abzeir boy kumer Rabbi Yasser. Abzeir asked from Rabbi Yasser, "Ha Meitzar mayu sheyafsik." He didn't want to answer. It wasn't clear. He didn't answer this halacha that he asked him. If a Meitzar is a boundary of the field, if that's considered a Hefsek. If there's really one field, just a small boundary, like a certain pile of dust in between of dirt, if that's considered a Hefsek. So now the Gemara, this is supposed to come before this. A mistake put it here, so I'll bring it back here. Just erase this here. Let me just first do it, and then we'll see how this works. Ma'achel v'shitza de Rabbi Yasser. The Tani and Talmud, we learned later on, that if you put dill or mustard in 3 places, that you have to give peah from each one. Now, the Gemara comments, what does it mean? 3, you put spots in your field, you put one spot here, one spot there, so you have to give peah for each one. Because they don't get ripe at the same time. And Rabbi Yasser, this is the most important thing we need to know is Shittas Rabbi Yasser. Rabbi Yasser says, what does Rabbi Yasser say? Rabbi Yasser says, since it's the fact that they are separate patches, so we see from him clearly that he holds that it's mafsik. V'koat omer hochen. So here he says that he doesn't know. He doesn't know if it's mafsik. There, he says that so the kasha is, why is it msapkele? There he says clearly that it's mafsik. Alma pshitale the mafsik. Arugus means it has separate boundaries. The Gemara answers Pshita leishi mafsik. There it means lachatchila. You have to give separately. Letzarcha the law kachim shem peah like kitchen. So it was, the question was, for sure lachatchila you must give from each one separately, because that was clear for him that if it's separate boundaries. The question is, if by the evet you did not listen and you gave from one to the other, if the kedusha is chal. That's the question. So it's like the evet question. That Mishnah talks lachatchila, you should give from each one. But the question is it so strong that even with the evet, if you said shem peah on one aruga and upon the other, is that so strong that it's not chal shem peah? That means it's totally impossible to do. That's the question. So this Gemara answers, Ton Rabbi Oshaya hefish peah besod chaverta loy kacha, Shama meimer afila Meitzar. And you can learn from that, even there's a Meitzar. So this is quite difficult, Yerushalmi, because we started off that Sada Lechaverta is like Kacha. So this is, I don't know. It must be some different words here that we don't know, and that is the words that should be. We don't know what words to add here. I can't suggest any words. There must be some different words that, and these words imply that even a Meitzar is mafsik. We don't know what the words are. We'll continue to Daf Yutches. Rabbi Yossi Bechanina Omer Chatzuvos mafsikim lepeah. Chatzuvos is a certain plant that grows very straight, and it's meant a special use to make boundaries between two fields. So that's a special plant. That's the purpose of the plant, to be mafsik. Now Gemara says Rav Chizda boya behein chilik ishias haaretz. Is that what Yeshua used to be mechalik, the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael? Also, Reb Chanina b'shem Reb Chizda beheim tichem. No, it's not tichem. Tichem means he made the tchumen of what belongs to Eretz Yisrael. So there's difference between tichem and chilik. Tichem means he surrounded the countries that are not part of Eretz Yisrael with that plant. And not he divided the sections between the Shvatim. Now the Gemara is going to explain what means each of the things the Mishnah explains that are mafsik. Shlulis, kol shi mesheches, water that runs, that flows. Nachal, apish eine meshech, even though it doesn't flow, that's called nachal, standing water. And we ask a question now. Why did the Mishnah need to say that a way of a rabbin, of a public road is mafsik? Even an individual road is mafsik. So the Gemara answers, it wants to say that even a public road can only create a hefsek for plants, for grass, for wheat, but not for trees. That's what Chiddush is. Even if it's such a strong road that a lot of people use it, it does not create a hefsek for trees. Now I'm asking a new question. Why do you need to say a path? You say a path of individual and a path of a public. Why do you need to say a path of a public? Even if a path of individual is mafsik. The answer is even if it's a path of a public, but if it's only used summer but not winter because it gets muddy, then it's not mafsik. Rav Omar. Now I'll go to a new sugya. Rav Omar. If we have these things in the Mishnah that are mafsik, and we have that bur we said is a wild, uncultivated field. Near is a field that you plow. They used to do that to help the fertilization, and there should be better for the next year, for planting season. So Rav says, what's the shear, what's the amount that you need to have a hefsek? The answer is Beis Rova. The shear is a Beis Rova. Now a Beis Rova is, it's 104 amas merubah. It's 104 square amas. It's about 10 by 10 amas. About. The way to do it is you take, a Rova means 50 by 50 is 2500, and you divide that by 24, make 2500 divided by 24, and then you take the square root of that. That's how you find the shear of a Beis Rova. So it's about, roughly speaking, a little bit more than 10 amas by 10 amas. That's mafsik. V'zera acher, but if you have a different seed, that's also, the Mishnah says, is mafsik. Afilu kolshu, even if it's a small patch, a small tiny row of a different seed. So let's say you have wheat on this side and that side, and then you have barley, one line of barley in the middle, one row. So that is mafsik. That's what Rav says. Rabbi Yochanan says, bur v'nir v'zera acher, the gimel talam shel pasiach. They all have the same shear, the same size. It has to be at least 3 rows of pasiach. Pasiach is the opening. So they used to plow the field twice. And first they had one type of between each row of plowing, and then the second time they did it different than the first time. So Gimel Talamim, the Gemara says that it means 2 amos. It's quite short. That it was very close to each other, the rows. So 3 of these rows are on a space of 2 amos. So I guess each row is an amma apart. So you can make 3 rows and 2 amos. So the Gemara asks, it's a huge difference. So first of all, we have Rabbi Yochanan and Rav are arguing with a few things here. First of all, they're arguing on zera. Let's first focus on zera acher. Rav says zera acher kol shu. Rabbi Yochanan says zera acher, you need space of 2 amos. The Gemara answers, it's not an argument. Ma'adamar Rav v'chiyuv peah. If the second seed is chayav b'peah, then Rav says you need even a kol shu. Because there is a certain logic, a certain Svara, that if it's chayav b'peah, that seed, then it's easier for that to create a hefsek. So for instance, if you have a row, you have chitim on one side, chitim on the other side, and barley in the middle, we say, since barley is also chayav b'peah, so one row of barley, even kolshu, is enough to be mafsek. Rabbi Yochanan is talking in a certain plant that's potter of peah. Let's assume you created there a patch of a vegetable that is not chayav b'peah. Yarek is not chayav b'peah. Now, we have to also understand there's an issue with kalayim here, but we're not going to go into that because I guess he made a certain way it should not be kalayim. We're not discussing this issue here. So he has a certain thing that's potter from peah, and we say that this, since it's potter, you need to have a larger amount to divide, and that is gimel talamim shel pasiach. That's 2 amis. So now we solve the problem from zera acher, from a different kind of seed. Now we go to the second category. Vatona bur v'nir chayav b'peah. Are they chayav b'peah? It means bur v'nir b'ma'ikemiflige. What are they arguing? What's the Svara Samachleikas? Why does Rav say 10 amos? huge amount, 10 by 10, and Yochanan says just 2 amas. Whereas the answer, min ma the more Rab besode beinoinus. Rab is speaking by an average field. Min ma the more Rabbi Yochanan b'chamishim al shtayim. So this is an interesting fact here, that they used to take the regular standard length of plowing, what used to be 50. So they used to plow 50 amas and go back, and another time 50 amas. So this is the shear of chamishim al shtayim, 50 by 2. That's 100. It will seem from this that the Gemara is trying to say that really they're both saying the same thing. It has to have a 100 square amas here, approximately that number. Either you can make that by 50, that's what Yochanan says, 50 by 2, and according to Rav, we are talking about a field that's not so long, it doesn't have the length of 50 by 2, so then we make a hefsek of 10 by 10. And that's considered a hefsek between the two seeds. So really they're both, the total amount in square amas must be approximately 100. And there's just different ways how to calculate this shear. I think this is the sensible pshat in this Gemara, although it's not 100% clear, but this sounds like a good pshat. So this is the end of Daf Yud Ches. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach.